Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. It is Sunday, 26 May 2024. This is a daily brief. So, Russia's lost more than 500,000, is now 501,190 according to their official statistics. And it's still hard to wrap your mind around that number. Like that, it just seems. Uh, it's hard to process. 12 tanks off the battlefield, 17 armored combat vehicles, 24 artillery pieces, and then the one aircraft that we were talking about yesterday, it was confirmed. That's what's going on statistically. Let's look at what's actually happening. And, some days you deal with good news, and other days you deal with bad news, and sometimes a mix of both. Today's almost completely a bad news day, and we have to deal with the bad news because otherwise we're just focusing on what's positive becomes almost propaganda-like. And here we're dealing with, well, some tragedy. In Kharkiv, the epicenter shopping mall was hit. Now, what they hit was the equivalent of I'm not going to play the video, but you can just look at that smoke plume of a shopping mall. It was like the equivalent of like a Home Depot or Lowe's in the United States. It was just a residential shopping center where they're, buying home decor and Okay, Zelensky calls for more air defense after deadly strike on Kharkiv store. Here's what happened. Russian strikes a crowded DIY hardware store and residential area in Ukrainian city of Kharkiv on Saturday. It killed at least 6 people, injured dozens, local officials said. 2 guided bombs hit the DIY hypermarket in a residential area of the city. Regional governor said on national television at least 2 of the dead were store employees, 40 people injured, with at least 3 in serious condition. 16 people still unaccounted for. President Zelensky, in his nightly video address, denounced the strike as yet another example of Russian madness. There is no other way to describe it. Zelensky also issued a plea to Ukraine's Western allies to help boost air defenses to keep the country's cities safe. What's going on in this picture? Well, he's getting a DNA test. Why? Well, here's why. 8-year-old Mikhailo is going through a DNA selection procedure because his father is probably among the victims of the Russian attack on Epicenter hypermarket in Kharkiv. His father worked in the decoration department and was inside the hypermarket at the time of the attack. 16 people are considered missing. Russian shelling killed 12 people, injured 43 more. That is what's going on. This is also called a war crime when Russia does that. But where's the denunciation from the West? In Kharkiv metro station during today's 11 hours of Russia pouring missiles on the city from just over the Russian border where the U.S. forbids Ukraine to strike by policy. We're still forbidding use of American weapons to strike into even military targets in Russia. 11 hours. 11 hours. Okay. Russia launches overnight missile attack over Ukraine. Now, this is different than the hypermarket. This is what's happening overnight. Russian forces launched yet another missile attack against Ukraine on Sunday morning, May 26th, firing Shahed drones and missiles from at least 4 strategic bombers targeting different regions across Ukraine. The Ukrainian Air Force reported on the morning of May 26 that air defense units had intercepted 31 Shahed drones, 12 Kh-101 and Kh-555 cruise missiles overnight, protecting regions including Mykolaiv, Polota, Zaporizhia, Odessa, and it goes on. Okay, overnight, again, 12 out of 12 of the cruise missiles, 31 out of 31 Shahed kamikaze drones, but 2 aeroballistic Kinzhal missiles got through. This is how afraid of F-16s Russia is right now. And it's a good argument that Jay and Kyiv is making because where did they focus their attention? Destroyed Russian missiles and drones that tried to hit an airfield being prepped for F-16s in Kaminsky region last night. Well, where is that? So here's Kyiv. The front line is mostly all down here. Here's Kyiv and here's Kaminsky. So Kaminsky is, far west in Ukraine so that they can, have some protection and time to, defend their jets. The F-16s aren't here. They'll probably be here somewhere in late summer, early fall. It could be sooner than that, but the deadline keeps moving back. We once upon a time were hearing May or June, and I don't think June's in the cards. Okay, even though the first class of F-16 pilots was just minted. Russia is gathering a new group of troops near Ukraine-Russian border, says Zelensky. What's going on here? Russia is the only source of aggression, constantly tries to expand the war. Right now, these days, we are defending ourselves 60 kilometers northeast from this place, yet another attempt of a Russian assault. Russia is preparing for an offensive actions also 90 kilometers northwest from here. They're gathering another group of troops near our border. The one that does all this doesn't want peace. Now, where is that? What are we talking about? So we're talking about Kharkiv, and this is where the incursions are, and 90 miles up, somewhere, whether you go from here up or here up, it's to gather a group of troops to go after the Sumy region, and that's sourced and verified in multiple accounts. This is what the route of Russian missiles and drones flying around the territory of Ukraine last night looks like. They were maneuvering in the air trying to confuse our defense. But if you look at the map, if you spend a little time with it to orient yourself, this is coming from Russia. This is Crimea down here, and here is Kyiv. So what are they generally focusing on? Well, what did we just see on the other map? Look at this. Klemensky, Kyiv. And here we are with this map, Kyiv, and yeah, it looks like they're going after that airfield. At the same time, Russia is producing artillery shells around 3 times faster than Ukraine's Western allies, and for about a quarter of the cost. The research on artillery rounds by Bain & Company, which drew on publicly available information, found that Russian factories were forecast to manufacture or refurbish about 4.5 million artillery shells this year, compared with a combined production of about 1.3 million rounds across European nations and the US. On cost, it said that the average production cost per 155mm shell, the type produced by NATO countries, was about 4,000 per unit, though it varied significantly between countries. This is compared with a reported Russian production cost of around 1,000 per 152mm shell that the Russian armed forces use. That's a big difference in both quantity and cost. They also talked about the NLAW anti-tank missile. They really need those. We have a lack of NLAWs, and we need more, said a soldier with call sign Bolt. So let's talk about producing the NLAW. Philip McBride, the managing director of Thales Belfast, said NLAW production capacity has doubled since the start of the year, and there was scope to double it again. Okay, well, you have the ability to do it. Why aren't they? Asked why the expansion only began then, when Russia's full-scale war erupted in February 2022, he explained it was because of a number of factors. Firstly, the UK Ministry of Defense supplies Ukraine with NLAWs rather than Thales directly. Okay, that makes sense. Another factor is that it can take up to 2 years to source the parts that are required for the NLAW. So there's a lot that goes into this. Yesterday I was telling you about the Polish Prime Minister talking about putting Europe on not a war footing, but an ongoing arms buildup just to prepare, because and one of the reasons was industry needs to have a long-term, like 10-year contract in order to make sense to actually produce these kinds of things. They can't just create it overnight. They have to ramp up, and that's part of the problem. Okay, last few articles. A stated installation of anti-drone nets over critical infrastructure facilities in Moscow, Russia. Wow, that's interesting that they're doing that even that far inland into Russia. Now here's Che Bose. He's from RT, and so he's going to have a pro-Russian position. Ukrainian dictator Vladimir Zelensky has said that he, quote, doesn't care that much, unquote, about concerns over his legitimacy. Zelensky has banned elections, citing ongoing conflict as a reason. The fact that he has made peace negotiations with Russia also illegal wasn't mentioned. Okay, so Russia created the problem and then is blaming him for the problem that they created. Constitutionally, he can't have an election. That's not the way that the Ukrainian constitution works, not like ours. So the Russians created the state of war, which keeps him from being in ability to have an election, and then they call him a dictator for doing that. Okay, Anton Gerashenko is showing a cemetery of Russian ammunition that Russia hit Kharkiv with. This is a photo from 2022. Now remember, it was Kharkiv where this epicenter shopping mall was hit, and we were showing earlier the Kharkiv metro station. Can you imagine how much this heap has grown since then? Each shell is someone's ruined life, home, hope. Look at that stack of shells just compared to these people. And this is in 2022. We're not even talking about what's gone on since then. Finally, Darth Putin. This is a parody website. First time we bombed a crowded shopping center, we claimed it was because NATO's generals were hiding there. Your response was so weak, we don't even bother making up an excuse. I think that's right. There's some truth in what's being said here. They're not even trying to hide it anymore or pretend like there was some military target here at the equivalent of a Home Depot. Okay, that's all that I have, my friends. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.